Hi folks, Forris Day Jr. here with Rolling Tape. Today we have Matt Lohr, co-writer of the book Dan O'Bannon's Guide to Screenplay Structure. Inside tips from the writer of Alien, Total Recall, and Return of the Living Dead. Now, let's roll tape.
This episode brought to you by Spoof Dance Film Festival. Make parody commercials and bring the funny.
Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hi, Forris. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Nice to have you on the show. Thank you for joining me. First of all, quick bio about you and how you got involved in this book.
Well, I first met Dan when I was a graduate student at Chapman University. He did a year of teaching master classes. And at that time, he mentioned to my thesis advisor, who was Leonard Schrader, who wrote Kiss of the Spider Woman, that he was seeking somebody to assist him with a book that he had in progress. He was working on a book on screenplay structure. He was seeking a graduate student to kind of do some research, help him with some of the writing. And Leonard presented this opportunity to my classmates and myself. My classmates all said, Matt, this is a perfect fit for you. You got to do this. So Leonard connected Dan and myself, and we worked together on the book for about 2 years. And after that, as some of you, if you know Dan's history, may know, Dan had some chronic stomach problems. He was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in the mid-late 70s, and was something that sort of bedeviled him for a long, long time. It did eventually cost him his life. He died in late 2009. And a little over a year after he passed, the book had not yet been published at that point. And his wife contacted me after a little over a year after Dan passed and said, you know, we have a publisher who's interested in putting the book out. It's not 100% there yet. Do you think you can kind of pull everything together and get this ready for print? So I spent another year working on the manuscript, kind of polishing it up, getting it ready. And it is the book that you a moment ago had in your hands.
He wrote some great screenplays in his day, right on the cover, Alien, Total Recall, Return of the Living Dead. Let's take a segment of the book and talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about something that originally wasn't going to be in the book. There's one section in the book that when Dan originally was working on it, he told his wife, Diane, I'm not going to include this in the book. You know, he said the magician can't reveal all of his secrets. And then, once he passed and we were finalizing the book, Diane and I talked about it, and our feeling was Dan is now in a place where hanging on to this will no longer be of use to him. So we'd like to share it with others. And it's a section of the book on a subject called Hedonic Adaptation, which is a idea that Dan used in sort of constructing and structuring his stories. Now, the interesting thing is it doesn't come originally from dramatic theory. It's actually a psychological principle that was sort of developed in the 1970s originally. It was published in a piece in, I believe, Psychology Journal in 1971, I believe it was, by two scientists. And the idea behind hedonic adaptation is basically the concept of human adaptability to stress and extreme circumstances. The idea being that when you're first confronted with a situation that's unusual or different or particularly intense, you respond as if it is different and extremely intense. It's something that's unprecedented. You haven't dealt with it before. But if that condition persists for long enough, it becomes normal to you. And you sort of adjust to it. Humans are very adaptable. That's why humans are one of the only species that live all over the planet in all different kinds of climates and environments and settings and things like that. Dan read about this. He thought about it, and he realized that it's a principle that you can use to just construct dramatic narrative. The way sort of Dan has approached it is basically you start with a world that you've created in your story. And you have characters within that world who have a certain understanding of what that world is. Mm-hmm. For them, what they're dealing with at the beginning of the story is, for them, what constitutes the normal world. For example, in Alien, which actually is a really great example of this. I'm not just using it because it's Dan's. It's a really beautiful example of how this hedonic adaptation idea works. When Alien begins, the world for the characters is normal as they understand it. It's slightly heightened for us because we don't live in a world where interstellar travel is possible yet. But for these characters, this is the norm. This is nothing out of the ordinary for them to be out in space on this voyage and this job that they're on. Basically, I don't even know if I want to use mission because it almost feels just more like a job. Because Dan always, this idea of truckers in space that Alien sort of codified. But then shortly after the story begins, they get a signal from outside somewhere in space, and they start realizing, well, there may be something else out there that's trying to contact us that we've never contacted before. So their understanding of what the universe is bumps up to another level, because they now live in a world where maybe there's other intelligences out there that are trying to reach us. And they go and they follow the signal, and they arrive at the crashed spacecraft. And now they're definitely at another level, because they know for sure that this isn't just a fluke. It's not just solar winds from somewhere or something. They've genuinely found evidence of other intelligences. And not just other intelligences, but it bumps up another level when they get to the chamber with the eggs, because not only is it other intelligences, it's other life as well. And then John Hurt gets a little too curious for his own good. The egg cracks open, it attaches to his face mask. Boom, now we're up to a shocking, really upsetting level, because not only is there life, it might not mean us well. It might mean to harm us. Now here we have a segment where it plateaus a little bit. Sort of what you're doing is you're rising up to these different plateaus. And as the characters sort of get acclimated to their understanding of the world as it now is, as it's evolved, we bump them up to another level. It allows the characters to never kind of settle and relax too much. And it allows us to never settle and relax too much with them, because we're constantly getting new information. For example, in a scenario like this where you have a first attack, you'll notice in a lot of movies you have kind of the first attack and it's usually chaotic, somebody gets hurt, and the characters kind of escape. And you always have the one character, they're catching their breath, they're injured, and somebody always basically says something along the lines of, "What the hell was that?" That's what I always call the "what the hell was that" moment. And that's usually a very natural place to put in some exposition. And that's exactly what happens in Alien, because we get Ash, who takes the facehugger into the lab. He's examining it. He's learning about it. So we have a moment where things are quiet a little bit, but we're also getting new information. We're learning what this creature is. We learn it's really bad news with this acid for blood and everything. And then the crew sits down to have a meal together. And something in the gazpacho doesn't agree with John Hurt. And boom, now we pump up to a major level, because not only do we think this thing wishes us ill, it's killed one of us. One of us is dead. And then boom, more of us are dead. Boom, now it's killed the captain. Boom, now I'm Ripley and I'm the only one left. So as the story goes on, you have these events kicking our understanding of what's going on up to new levels. It makes it more intense. It makes it more exciting. And just as the characters and the audience get acclimated to where they are in their understanding of the universe, you pull the rug out from under them and introduce a new piece of information, a new shock, a new threat. So your story's constantly elevating in terms of the intensity, in terms of the excitement, which keeps your audience constantly rising in terms of their engagement, their intensity, their excitement level with the story. And the beautiful thing is, too, when you have a denouement, when you resolve this, you never go back to point A again completely. Because Ripley at the end of Alien can never go back to that safe, complacent place she was when the story began. Because she knows now that there's much more in heaven and earth than was dreamt of in her philosophy. And some of it's nasty, and some of it has claws.
And it's broken. It's broken down in the book, Dan O'Bannon's Guide to Screenplay Structure. You break all of that down, and anybody who's a screenwriter, I recommend this book. Really, really good book. Kind of covers everything you just talked about and more. Matt, our time is up, but I want to thank you. A wealth of information in a short period of time, and like to get you back on here at some point. But quickly, where can the book be purchased, and where can people get a hold of you?
Oh, you can find the book on Amazon. You can find it through lawrencelocal.com. It is available to download for the Kindle if you're a Kindle person. Most major bookstores will have it. You can order it through, Powell's, any kind of site. I can be found on Twitter at the Movie Zombie. I also have a Facebook page, so if you want to, contact Matt or Lohr, you can like me or follow me on Facebook. And I also can be found by email at mattlohrinla@gmail.com. So if you have any questions, I also do consulting. So if you have a screenplay or anything like that you'd want me to take a look at and break down for you, I'd be happy to do that. I can send you my rates. So I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I totally appreciate you joining us on the show. That's Matt Lohr, co-author of Dan O'Bannon's Guide to Screenplay Structure. inside tips from the writer of Alien, Total Recall, and Return of the Living Dead. Thank you for watching Rolling Tape. Please subscribe to our channel for filmmakers. We love to hear from you, so leave a comment, share the page, like the page if you'd like, and thank you so much for watching this episode of Rolling Tape.